So, okay.
That's
Then I just have to put my email.
His won't even show up as clickable link, it's just text.
Womp womp. Your computer's wrong.
What?
I said your computer's wrong. So I just have
We
to.
changed it every week. I think we should write it.
Oh,
We don't have any Bibles.
It's nothing here to sign into.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that should be a web link.
Really?
Portal office time.
Could I have a good confession this week?
It's all right, they expect me every week.
This is still weird walking over this side.
I played that game, I don't need to do that again.
Instead of constantly this, it's one app.
Plus, with this computer or this TV,
They're gonna
that's when
point
it gets automatically picked up.
Okay.
I point at it, I don't can.
that's funny.
So you can give your neck a different twist.
Yeah.
If you've done this for the wrong.
Today, I like chairperson.
You want me to find it? Right there.
Yeah, right there, that link.
So click on that.
That one.
Well, I need to get some new ones.
And there's an app you'll have to download on your phone. There's an authenticator app.
Yeah, it's silent on.
There's an authenticator app.
Should just be Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, which the board.
I have to do that. I'll do it. If not, I'll just have Jake do it.
I already have an authenticator app, but I don't want to do a call. That's
He
old.
downloaded the authenticator
You're-
app thing.
You're gonna already use it because that's three other resources. Email address.
Got it all back. That's the
Right.
problem. We're all backwards.
What do you use it for?
Real estate.
Oh, that's quite true. Interesting. I'm so trusting. I don't care.
You know, they're difficult to have because they sign on to different systems.
Your mind's thinking alike or something to its own.
You know what?
5, 4. Good evening and welcome to the Defiance City Council meeting for tonight, January 9th, 2024. Before we get underway, we have Pastor Tim Hacker from Bethel here to open us up in prayer. Thanks for being our guest this evening.
Thanks for having me as a guest this evening. I was thinking that as I was on my way here of all the years that I've been here, and there's a group of pastors that have been praying for over 20 years. I think we started in '99, and we pray every Thursday, and we get together and we talk, and I want you to know they barely ever talk about you all, except for good things. And I was thinking to myself, I couldn't remember, in fact, any big decisions or even small decisions that anybody in the group has complained about. We've talked about them sometimes a little bit, like, wonder how that's going to go. But, you know, this has been a pretty good city council the whole time I've lived here in this city. And I'm thankful for that. I consider it, again, a privilege. And in fact, in recent conversations we've had with the other pastors, they are so thankful that we still have this opportunity to come and pray for you all before you do make decisions, hoping that God will help you indeed make those decisions right. And I think he has been the whole time. So I want to get off here before too many minutes go by, because I understand some of you need to be sworn in. And then after that, some people will think that it makes it legal for them to swear at you. But anyway, let's pray. Father, thank you for all these wonderful folks who give of their time and their talent to this community. It is truly a blessed community, and I have seen so many good things over so many years. Thankful to be a part of this community and thankful to be able to pray for these wonderful people who are, I believe, going to do their best to follow the law and do the right things and make sure that Defiance remains a great place to live. And we thank you for this, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. This meeting is called to order. Let the record show that all the members of council are present for this evening. Would you stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get underway, Judge Essex is our guest this evening. He is here to swear in some council members for the beginning of their new term.
Good evening. My pleasure to be here. My first official time. Only been on the bench for 2 weeks. So if Mr. Corbett, Mr. Hancock, Mr. Mast, and Mr. Engel would come up here. Not sure how the camera lady wants you to face that way probably. How's that sound? We'll do them all together. I'll read in the first part where I say state your name, just put your own name in there when we do that. And then when you're done, you do have to sign the oath of office, and then we'll get them turned over. If you're ready, I state your name.
I, Johnny Hancock,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Defiance.
and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Defiance.
I shall not be influenced by any consideration
I shall not be influenced by any consideration
except that of merit
except that of merit,
and fitness in the appointment or discharge of employees.
discharge of employees.
I shall not make or authorize
I shall not make or authorize
the expenditures of public money
expenditures of public money
otherwise than for adequate consideration
otherwise for adequate consideration
and efficient service to the City of Defiance.
and efficient service to the City of Defiance.
And I shall,
And I shall,
in all other respects,
in all respects,
faithfully discharge the duties
faithfully discharge the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as a member of the City Council
as a member of the City Council
of the City of Defiance, Ohio.
of the City of Defiance, Ohio.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Mr. Corbett.
Congratulations to you.
Oh, thank you. You're next. It's just the order they put them in for me. I didn't do that. Yes, it is. You. Straighten it out. Mr. Next. Thank you. Yep, you're all set. Congratulations. I'll turn these over.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Judge.
Thanks,
Thank
Judge.
you. We get underway this evening. We have a couple special guests. Patrolman Sanders and our new canine unit, Kenzo. Thanks for being our guest this evening.
Thanks for having us. We want to come by and introduce ourselves. This is Kenzo. Kenzo is about a 14-month-old German Shepherd, all black, which makes him really hard to see when the sun goes down for me. Kenzo's been on the road officially about 3 weeks. So far, we're up to approximately 4.5 grams of methamphetamine that we found.
Must be drugs in there.
Stay.
Who brought those?
Stay. Went through about 14 weeks of training. We started September 5th and graduated on December 8th. Some days are challenging. Some days you're like, this dog is finally getting it. He's a rock star. And then some days you don't know what he's thinking. So he's a dog like any other dog. But we work through those, and sometimes he just needs a break like anybody else. He stays at home with me and my family. Every other week, my wife and I have 4 children at home. Every other week, it's just us, along with our 2 pit bulls. So we have a house full even when there are no kids there. As you can see, everything revolves around his ball. That's what he wants. But he also helped us apprehend a subject with a misdemeanor warrant. He was hiding in a house from us. Kenzo's trained to do a building search. I give him a specific command. He goes in. Just by smelling doors and smelling rooms, he'll alert on a room if there's a person inside that room. In this case, he didn't. There's an exterior door on the bedroom, so I just opened it, let him in. As soon as the young man realized that there was a canine dog in there, he gave himself up and has fought with us in the past, so I think he definitely saved us some issues that day. Other than that, he's trained in cocaine, crack, meth, heroin, ecstasy. Everything revolves around his ball. When he sits for me, when he finds drugs, it's not because he wants to impress me. It's because he wants this. This is his life. Everything revolves around his ball. That's his reward. Every time he did something right at training, that's what he gets. That's everything to him. So nothing really matters except for that. He is trained in handler protection. So someone shoves me just a little tiniest of shove, they're gonna probably regret their life choices. So him and Canine Fozzie from the sheriff's office were definitely some of the top dogs in the class, in my humble opinion. But it's been a lot of fun happening so far, and we're really looking forward to utilizing him as much as possible. So.
Very good.
Can I answer any questions about Kenzo?
What breed is he?
He's a German Shepherd. For the most part, nothing is 100% German Shepherd anymore. They try and mix a little bit of Belgian Malinois in there, try and get rid of some of the hip issues and things that German Shepherds have that the Malinois typically don't. But for the most part, it's German Shepherd. Yes, sir.
What happens when he wears that ball out? Will he accept a substitute?
He will. Yeah, he will. We started with the cage balls, the real hard batting cage balls. I drilled a hole in those, put a rope through it, and every other dog in the class, that was fine, but for him, in 2 weeks, he destroyed them. So we went to something a little harder. He has yet to dent this, but eventually, I'll be able to replace that with the same ball, and he'll be just as accepting of it. He has two that are exactly the same. There's a couple reasons for that. Mostly, if we play two ball, or whatever his reward is, he can't tell a difference. Whether that ball is yellow, blue, whatever color, it has to be the same, because a dog may favor, if he had one yellow, one black, that he may favor the yellow one. That black one doesn't hold as much value anymore, so he doesn't care, especially learning out. When it's time to out, he'll drop something. But if I hold the ball that's not as valuable, he doesn't care about outing the one that he has. So it's kind of a trick of the trade, if you will. So. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So you mentioned you have him home on weekends, but you have all these children.
Yes.
And you certainly roughhouse with your kids. How do they react? Maybe you don't.
We are very careful about the roughhousing. My stepson was joking one day, and he knows all the kids, so he's not quite as adamant to come to Dad's protection. But he definitely stepped up and put his head in the air. And was definitely aware of that, so we definitely have to be careful. I cracked my daughter's back one night, and she kind of popped up, and he came up and he gave her a little nip in the hiney, and he didn't hurt her, but he put a hole in her pants. So yeah, some things we're learning what triggers them, anyway. You know, yeah. So we're learning what triggers them and what doesn't. So, but for the most part, the other two pit bulls they keep each other wore out for the most part and keep that energy kind of contained, so or used at the same time. So, but yeah, we keep that in mind.
When you give commands, is it in a different language?
It is not. They kind of got away from that, at least Allen County's Academy. Reason being is when we're under stress, we have enough things to remember besides, if I mean down and I accidentally give him the word to bite somebody because I'm under stress and I can't remember the English words, let alone something in German or Czech or whatever. So everything's in English. He came from Poland, so some of his initial commands were Polish, whether it's out or down or what have you, some pretty basic stuff. But yeah, everything is 100% English.
You still, the family still go to school? I know when we had ours, the family went to the school also.
Yeah,
you guys still do that?
They come just for the one graduation day. They wanted to get something else worked in there a little bit, but on top of school, every day there's in-service guys there, except for like one day a week. So you've got 5, 6, 7, 8 guys with their dogs coming in every day, and they're trying to divide and conquer. it was a little bit bigger class. There was 6 of us total, 6 dual purpose and 1 single purpose dog. So you got 7 dogs that you're trying to train, and trying to fit in a family day on top of the in-service guys can kind of be tough. So yeah, they'd like to work that in a little bit more, but sometimes it just doesn't always happen. Yes, sir.
When the family goes to town and the dog is left at home by himself, how does he react?
So right now, we started out with 2 crates. Those crates are no longer in existence, they're in the trash. So right now, I'm fortunate to have a large basement. I have a full dog kennel down there. He does not like it when I leave the house. He's okay if the kids and my wife are there, but if the house is empty and he has to be in the kennel, he paces the whole time. I had a camera on him, went to Toledo the other day, 5.5 hours, and he didn't stop pacing. So I have a high anxiety impact crate, it's like $1,200 coming, and we're gonna hopefully get that under control.
We had a German Shepherd, we had to put music on anytime.
Yeah, we've tried music, tried rock and roll, classical, you name it. We've put on the TV, we've put on Cops for some siren action. He just, it doesn't seem to matter. He does not like being away from me. So, yeah, he's kind of my shadow at home. If I get up, he gets up. If I sit down, he sits down. So, yeah.
He's specifically used for narcotics then, is that
So he's a
basically?
dual purpose. So he's trained in the odor of several narcotics, as well as hand over protection. He does bite work, and then he also does article searches. So if, say we have somebody who runs from a house, they just stole stuff from it, they're dropping stuff along the way, I can give him a command and he will find stuff that he knows doesn't belong in that area, outside only for article searches. And he's trained to, when he comes upon that, he'll down and he'll wait for me until I come up and see what he's found. So he does a bunch of different things like that. So it's a lot of work. That's why the class is 14 weeks. Trying to teach them, to down on something that just sit in the middle of the grass is not exactly easy. So, but again, that's where that ball comes into play. You kind of start out, you walk them around on a leash, you come upon something in the grass, you point it out, give them a ball. And then you move on to, they come upon it, they stop and recognize it, they get their ball. And then you move on to, okay, when you find that item, now you down, you don't get your ball until you down. So it's just a progression. So, yeah, it takes a lot of patience some days.
So even in the 14 weeks when, they can discern between fentanyl and oxycodone and, cocaine.
So he doesn't have a different alert for each drug.
Okay.
If it's an odor to, for something he's trained on, his response is the same. So when he alerts on a car, you're gonna get slapped. When he alerts on a car, I can't tell what he's alerting on. I just know that there is an odor in there that he's trained on.
Okay. Interesting.
So Patrolman Sanders went through, a selection process to get this ability to be a canine operator. He came out with flying colors. This makes 2 we have now in road patrol.
Yes.
So what shift are you on again?
I'm on seconds right now. Saturdays I go to third.
Going to third.
And Roth and Mirko will go to first on Saturday. So I'm first and third.
So we will have canine coverage on those 2 shifts.
Do you have a work restriction hour-wise for?
As far as like what he's capable of doing?
Yeah, how long can you work before you gotta say, take a break?
He doesn't really have a work restriction. I leave him in the car, or he follows me around at the office. So now, as far as like if we do a track or something like that, he definitely has a limit. He won't stop necessarily, because he wants to find that bad guy. But there's definitely a point where he needs a break. At school we did what we call jump track. So we had a guy run for 3.7 something miles, and it was unfortunate because it was a super windy night. I think we had 18-mile-an-hour winds. It was cold, and the idea is that when your dog gets tired or loses where that track is going, the next dog gets out, you let that handler know where you last left off, where that track was the strongest, and then they pick up, and you kind of keep jumping dogs. That's why it's called a jump track. It was cold and windy again, so each dog went about 300-400 yards, and they'd lose it because of the wind. His farthest track to date is 2.1 miles. So that's just completely starting out, hey, bad guy went this way, was last seen right here, and away we go. He's got a very distinct person, or I guess traits, when he's in odor. His head's down, his tail's straight. He's very, very nose to the ground. Like, he's very focused and concentrated. When he stops and kind of looks up and just keeps looking like a lost puppy, basically, you know he's not in odor. So you got to kind of go back to where you last knew he was there, start up again. But it's not too often that he does that. The urban environments are definitely more challenging. You have people walking, you have other dogs, you've got wild animals, things like that. But for the most part, he does pretty well on his tracks. So.
How many years will he be in service before you retire?
It depends. They can go anywhere from as little as 5 all the way up to 9, 10 years. Depends on their health and diet and things like that. So.
You take them into the schools at all?
We've been in a couple schools, yeah. Part of the last few weeks of training, Allen County takes us into several of the Fort Wayne schools, and we do locker searches. That's just part of acclimating them to that environment. Some dogs have really big issues with shiny floors. We did have one dog that, for some reason, you get on that shiny floor, you see the lights reflecting, and they just get real scared and timid. But lockers are extremely difficult to search, or can be. If there's some of those lockers in schools, the walls are hollow behind there, so that airflow scent odor falls. But if there's no wall back there and it's empty space, that odor can escape and go wherever. So that's the kind of purpose of getting us into the schools and getting used to searching things like that.
Welcome to the forest, Kenzo.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Hancock?
You let him chase squirrels and rabbits?
He doesn't really care to critter, which I'm thankful for. If we're tracking and a squirrel comes up, something like that, yeah. You gotta really watch and make sure that he's not doing that, or that you have to pull him off of that. One of the guys in our class has a single purpose dog, is a German wire hair. Those dogs are made for wildlife, and he would critter something terrible. He'd be on a track, see a squirrel, and there to go the track. He took after a flock of geese one day, and we were doing leashless obedience, and we had to chase after him in our cars for a little over a mile before we got a hold of this, $7,000 dog. So, yeah, fortunately, he doesn't care too much for the critters. So he may look up or glance, but he doesn't pay them too much mind. Yeah.
Do you have any other questions? Well, thank you for being our guest.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Safe out there.
Yeah, thanks. Good.
Don't leave it.
With that, do we have any liaison meeting requests or reports? We have a report from this evening in that we had a meeting of the whole. We had our guest come this evening, Glenn Grisdale. We discussed the planning and zoning code. He was able to discuss the formulation of the plan that he has. We took a poll, and he'll be returning to us in a couple weeks, is it? With some recommendations and suggestions.
I think that was a couple months, Mr. President.
Did I say weeks?
Months.
He also gave his name and address to some concerned citizens who are here so that he can receive some feedback from the citizenry here in Defiance. Also a reminder, next time we meet, which will be in 2 weeks, I'll be assigning new liaison meeting assignments. If any of the members of council have any suggestions or requests about what committee or liaison committee you would like to be on, email me, text me, call me, or just talk to me. With that, do we have any council comments this evening? No council comments? Okay. One thing, seeing it's the new year, that's on my desk is a nomination of a president pro tem. Do we have a motion for a president pro tem, Mr. Mast?
I'd like to nominate Mr. Corbett.
Mr. Corbett, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Engel? All those in favor of Steve Corbett continuing as president pro tem, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
I will be leaving and we will be back in a couple months.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
In August, maybe.
Right. Mayor McCann.
Thank you, Mr. President. Happy New Year, everyone. I mentioned in an email I sent to council that Jen Rosebrook has decided because she's working out of town, can't re-up for her position on Planning Commission. So I would like to appoint Stacy Kaufman with your consent.
In consideration of the mayor nominating Stacy Kaufman to this position, do we have a motion for her appointment? Mr. Waxler? And a second?
Second.
Mr. Mast, all those in favor of approving the mayor's appointment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Well, congratulations.
Thank you. We had lunch today. Stacy, Mrs. Sprague, and Melinda Sproul, our engineer, and we had an enjoyable lunch, and I think she'll be a welcome addition to our planning commission.
Excellent. Right, I was going to, I knew there was a second thing I was going to mention. So we hit rewind real quick, back to in 2 weeks when we meet again. If you have any suggestions for liaison committee appointments, make sure you get hold of me. Also, the next time that we get together, we do need appointments for the Charter Commission. If you have anybody who has contacted you, we do need 5 names of people who are registered voters in the city of Defiance. Currently, there are 4 members that are on. Mr. Beard was on, but he has since passed away. We do need to get that solidified by the end of January, and our next meeting will be the last meeting of January. So if you have any questions or comments, make sure you email me. If you have any constituents contact you, we do need to get those brought up and voted on and approved next time we meet.
Did we rewind so far I have to redo Stacy, or are we all right there?
We'll go fast forward.
All right.
Now we're good.
All right. Thank you very much, and that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Mr. Mack.
Yes, Mr. President. All I have for you tonight is that at our next scheduled meeting, I will start again with project updates and do a project update list similar to what I was doing last year. So I just want to put that out there to make you aware you get a full update on projects we're working on at the moment or stuff we have upcoming at the next meeting.
Excellent. Mr. O'Donnell.
I have nothing at this time, Mr. President.
Ms. Sprague.
I have a couple of things. Starting tomorrow, we're going to transition to our new email system and the MFA platform to log in. So I'll have Jake come in a couple of weeks, our next meeting on the 23rd. I'll have him here about 6:30 to help you get that process complete. Because after tomorrow, you're probably not gonna be able to access your email. That system's gotta get shut down as we convert to the new. So if you wanna stop in and meet with him one-on-one, I mean, you can, that's up to you. But I'll have him come here and get that set up for you. And we personally have not transitioned yet, so I'm not sure, how that's gonna go. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But he's gonna start that tomorrow with us and then move on to the other division heads. So in 2 weeks, it should be easy process for you guys.
For the next several days, he might be a little overwhelmed. We should probably wait.
I would, but I would hold off. And he's not quite sure what to expect either, but he'll be fine. He'll get it knocked out. I'm sure he will. So, and then I have a couple of purchase orders. One for building inspection, Skylar Belcher. It's a release of escrow funds in the amount of $26,000 even, and then another for the MS4, which is Jen's department, civil and environmental consultants, $27,300, and that's the only items I have.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Yep.
We do have 3 items of legislation for consideration this evening. Would you read the caption for the first?
First reading by caption only, an ordinance amending section 1519.04 of the codified ordinances of the city of Defiance, Ohio.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Thank you, Mr. President. A little over 2 years ago, the General Assembly for the state of Ohio enacted legislation that was more permissive for the use of fireworks throughout the state. It set forth certain dates and times where the discharge or ignition of 1.4G, we call consumer grade fireworks, would be legal statewide. Now, it was permissive, but it did leave municipalities and their respective legislatures with the option of further limiting or outright even banning the fireworks from within their boundaries. Indeed, some municipalities nearby have done so. And last month, the previous council made the successful motion to direct me to draft legislation to go ahead and ban the ignition or discharge of consumer grade 1.4G fireworks. 1.3G, you already can't discharge or ignite them because they're display grade, unless you're what's called a licensed exhibitor. So that's what's before you. These are the changes that are before you in this proposed legislation. And it goes ahead and states that only licensed exhibitors can discharge or ignite 1.4G consumer grade fireworks as well. I did leave a provision in subsection F where I had the I left the prohibition on the discharge or ignition of fireworks while in the possession or control of or under the influence of any intoxicating liquor, beer, or controlled substance. That's in case God forbid, a licensed exhibitor were to consume or alcohol or something while putting on a show, and provides us with additional prosecution options in that scenario. It's non-emergency, regular order legislation. I believe I heard last month that, lots happened since then, but that you might want 3 readings for this bill. And I believe there's been some correspondence to you over this issue. So it stands before you. You can amend it as you like, or not amend it.
You're correct. Last time when we met and this ordinance was suggested, that we did say that we were going to preferably take it to 3 readings so that we could discuss it and that we could wait and get feedback from the constituents. But do we have any questions or comments in these regards? Mr. Corbett?
The only comment I have, because we did agree to let it lie so we could have 3 readings, but since our email is going to go down, I will remind everybody, as far as I'm concerned, my phone number is listed on the city website. You can leave me a message, call me, I'll answer the phone, or you can send a text. I can get text also, so there's other ways to contact me personally. I'm sure the other council members have the same options. So I make a motion to let lie.
There are also quite a few empty seats out there that people could feel free to show up and
drop in. We have a motion to let lie, but do we have a question, Mr. Esty?
I have a question.
Sure. What's your question?
Not a question, but a comment. I'm in favor of this ordinance. I think it brings order to our community. It's not gonna be in favor for a lot of people that basically like to use this to display during the holidays. But I think there are other things that we need to keep in mind, that our animals, older people, and I think those things are things to keep in mind. So I'm in favor of this. But
Mr. Wexler?
The problem I got with it is we're regulating everything that, you know, we're telling the people that would do these by law, that would do them properly, that they can't do them, and we aren't going to stop the people that's doing them illegal now. So this ordinance, all we're really doing is smacking the people that follow the rules, that do it legal, so these guys can go do it illegal, and we're not going to arrest them. We haven't done anything to them in the past, and they know that. So I disagree with it, because I think there again, the government's just putting their hammer down on all people that do the right thing. You know, making things up like you can't have this, you can't have that, but you don't take it away from the bad guys. You know, that's just my opinion. So I'm against it. So.
We have no other questions or comments. We do have a motion to let lie.
make one statement real quick.
Sure.
And I think it goes to your point that the people doing it legally, unfortunately, will have to suffer without fireworks as well. However, I think the point along that I've made is that barely anyone within the city limits of Defiance are going to be able to follow that law legally because of the space restrictions as far as how far you are from your neighbors, alcohol involvement, have children around. Most people in the city would not be able to do it legally. I mean, it's just, that's why the
But there are
majority
those
of the
that do. There's the
metropolitan
guy on the
areas.
north side that does it every year and he's out in that big
That's why the
field.
majority of the metropolitan areas in Ohio have banned it, because, for that very reason, because of the proximity to everybody's neighbors, you just can't do it.
This ain't gonna stop it. We're
No,
still gonna hear it,
I
and, you
agree.
know.
No, but it does put, it's now, if our police department gets a call, they know to respond. Before, it was hard for them to enforce because there was too much ambiguity in this state rule. And they just probably didn't go because they knew by the time they got there, it's gonna be a little easier to enforce because it's black and white.
Now, I have had comments too, and I don't know if there's any interest in this, of not necessarily striking out every holiday, keeping certain ones, such like the 4th of July, as an active holiday where you can be allowed to do it. But to Mr. Corbett's point, do we just invite more issues, whereas now we know it's illegal?
And that's my point of view.
If we don't have any other questions or comments, we do have a motion to let lie.
Second.
Second, Mr. Aresti. All those in favor of letting this issue lie, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We'll bring it up next time we convene.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance amending ordinance number 8549 passed December 5th, 2023. Appropriation for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Defiance, Ohio during the period of January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024.
Ms. Sprague.
Yes, I had sent out a couple of supplementals that I needed to do. These items were in your budget book, but when we loaded the budget into the system, these funding lines had not been set up. So it's minimal dollars, but so it was in order to do supplemental appropriations, buildings and lands, and income tax. So that's what those are for.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Sprague? Mr. Engel?
Motion to suspend and call.
Motion to suspend and call?
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast?
Mr. Aresti?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
And Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Motion adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Waxner?
Second.
Second, Mr. Hancock?
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
And Mr. Aresti?
Yes.
With that, this ordinance is adopted.
First reading by caption only, an ordinance authorizing transfer of funds for the city of Defiance, Ohio for the year ending December 31st, 2024.
Ms. Sprague?
Yes, when we ran payroll, the last payroll of the year, the fire pension fund was overdrawn, so that's what this transfer's for. So it's retroactive for December of '23, but we needed the $13,000 in order to clean up that fund.
Do we have any questions for Ms. Sprague in these regards? Mr. Mass?
No questions. Motion to suspend and call.
Second.
Motion to suspend and call. Second, Mrs. Crutch?
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Aresti?
Yes.
And Mr. Mass?
Yes.
Motion adopt.
Motion to adopt, Mr. Waxler?
Second.
Second, Mr. Mast?
Mrs. Crutch?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Corbett?
Yes.
Mr. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Aresti?
Yes.
Mr. Mass?
Yes.
And Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
All right. With that, this ordinance is also adopted. Do we have any citizens' concerns that were shared with council to be shared this evening? Without any, and since the items of legislation have been addressed, do we have a motion to adjourn for this evening?
So moved.
So moved. Second. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening and reconvening in 2 weeks, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?